Welcome everybody to the Talk Your Soul podcast. This is episode 21. Uh I don't want to try to pronounce it, but for fun's sake, I will. Roro, Raro no Raggy.
Raggy. Bro,
Raggy.
the fact that you're scrappy, that just hit me in like I forgot about the scrappy conversation. Like, like so,
Yes.
yes. Right,
Yes.
bro.
Go ahead, hit the laugh. Hit the laugh for him. Hit the laugh for him. Yo, that shit is so on point. So
Yes,
anyway,
Scooby Doo. Where are you? Yes. Help. What's up, bro?
yeah, I'm DA. That is DJ Sabir.
Yeah.
And we want to have, it's a fun conversation, with everything that's going on, but we want to try to still approach it, from a deep level, or at least somewhat deep. We're not going to the deep end, but we're not in the shallow end today either. And that's how we're going to try to do it. But
Yes.
today we're going to talk about drug culture references in Scooby Doo. If you're our age, even if you're probably like, in your 40s or your 30s, you've watched Scooby Doo at some point, some version of Scooby Doo. If you're our age, pretty sure you've watched the original. And you might not have picked up on it when we were kids, but if you go watch it now, you'll realize there's a lot of drug culture references in this show.
Yeah.
Um, we consulted the scrolls as to why this may be. And as usual, it gives a pretty in-depth response. But I'm not going to really try to get into all of it. I'll just try to like hit the talking points.
Okay.
But before we get into that, I want to tell you that I watched The Accountant too.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I liked it. It was
Okay.
pretty good. I'm not going to tell you because you got to go see it. And I'll just say that I realized that I missed a key point in the first one, but they do you the honor of like fully fleshing it out for the second one,
Okay.
you know. So, but
A good sequel, typically needs the authenticity to still stand on its own. And tell the backstory, but like it still has to stand alone for people that don't haven't seen it. So it needs that level of resilience to be a good sequel. Scale of 1 to 10. What do you give? How would you or grade A B C D F? What would you Where do you grade The Accountant to?
um I don't want to try to say which one is better because I think that's doing it a disservice. It's kind of
Okay.
it's really just continuing the story.
Yeah.
So, I don't want to do that. But I will say that if you don't watch the first one, there are some things in the second one that you're not going to get. You need to watch the first one to see how certain things play out.
Right.
In the second one, like I said, in the second one, they kind of they flush it out a little more. But I will say that the two of them together, the brothers, oh yeah, they're hilarious together.
Yeah. The back and forth kind of thing.
Yeah, they are hilarious, and I'm
One
glad.
thing we've never talked about Hollywood, if we even can call it that anymore. I mean, it's probably way more than just Hollywood, but just like the movie industry, if you will, and lack of creative, authentic thoughts as far as what a movie's gonna be about. Like all these prequels, sequels, remakes. This is the blueprint now for movies, and try to go with something that has worked before. So this is what we're here for as a culture.
Yeah, you're right. I was actually having a conversation about that with someone at work, and I had mentioned that like we don't watch movies for the sheer entertainment of it anymore. Like there's always someone watching it with the intent to like create content about it. They want to try to do a deep dive. Like it's getting to the point where even the types of content that come from a movie are they're pretty much the same. Like that's not even original thought anymore. You're gonna have a review, then someone's gonna try to explain the ending. I don't know why people gotta explain the ending of movies now. Who gives a shit about that?
We
You know
got
what I
to
mean?
in our era. It was Siskel and Ebert. Yeah, it was like there was two motherfuckers' opinions. You know what I mean? It was what you got. Now it's like everyone.
Everyone. Yeah,
You know.
everyone. But like you said, that's just where we are today. So, but
Mhm.
I want to bring back watching movies for the sheer entertainment of it, which means you kind of gotta like you gotta let all these things go. Like you just gotta like watch and take in what you see. Like you can't sit there and try to like ask yourself all these questions and try to like look for the Easter eggs and like just whatever.
People like I didn't see Sinners, but I feel like I did. My God, with
Thank
all the
that's exactly
analysis, like
exactly
I can wait now. I can wait the 3 months before it's on streaming. Like it's not even probably have to be that long.
exactly that is a good example of what we're talking about.
Excuse me.
But yeah, so getting back to the subject at hand today, I want to ask you: do you remember seeing these drug references as a kid, or is this something that you didn't pick up on until you became an adult?
I think let's chronicle where I come in, and when I did my Scooby dive, um, I just made when I did my Scooby
Scooby
dive.
dive, Scooby,
When I
you're a Scooby diver.
when I did
You're a Scooby
my
diver.
Scooby dive, I realized that when we were watching Scooby Doo as kids, we were watching reruns from probably 10 years before us. You know what I mean? And then they kind of you know remixed uh, and re-released and spun off movies. So it was when I would be watching Scooby Doo era television with my when my kids were younger, when I started to see the innuendos in the movie. If it was some tongue in cheek comment, if it was just some smoke, kind of just like, the first time you see Shaggy, you see a little smoke, you know what I mean? Like, just kind of like, these subtle references and, the mystery mobile, you couldn't see what inside of there, you know what I mean? Like, you couldn't
Right.
see, and hence the name mystery. And, these guys were hippies. Again, it was a 70s phenomenon that we would go on to watch in the 80s. You know what I mean? And then, even the kids today are discovering and appreciating it. You know what I mean? So Scooby reaches out across the generations in a special kind of way. I thought Scooby was black at one point. Me and ChatGPT had a conversation about that, and there's a gremlin in the house. And ChatGPT told me that like Scooby's a dog. Scooby is a dog. He's not black. Upon further review, but a lot of black people like Scooby, and and white people too, and young people and old people. Like Scooby's been around a long time. Like shout out to him. And
Yeah,
we
yeah,
gotta talk
definitely.
about the whole. We gotta talk about like go ahead, but I don't want to go there yet. But like let's let's not let off the whole analyzing the whole gang. Like I want to look at Fred. I want to look.
Definitely Fred.
I want to.
Anybody who's wearing an ascot, not a, I don't even know what you call it. Like, what was that thing he was wearing? That scarf. Like, I don't know.
Fred.
But anyway, like you said,
He
we'll
was
get.
fashion forward, very secure in his manhood. the pledge leader, I just for some reason I just thought about Donovan McNabb. I am the leader. No, the defense is the leader. Like so he was the pledge. He said he was the leader, but Velma was the brains. You know what I mean? And I
He
guess
was the
Daphne was
muscle. He was essentially the muscle for whatever you could get for 1969. Like I feel
Daphne
like
was the damsel in distress. A ginger. Ginger is another rabbit hole that we might need to go down one day. Like there's something between gingers and black people. It came up in Sinners, but again, I don't want to get off track. Uh, and then, uh, and then, yeah, Scooby and Shaggy. You know what I mean? The courageous, like in the pursuit of Scooby snacks, which may have been edibles, guys. In the end, Shaggy was eating them too.
that's
They were
true.
cross species snacks. We're not talking about catnip here. You know.
Farmer's dog.
Yeah.
Why do you have your dog food in the refrigerator?
And if if the right combination of edibles kick in, you might be seeing ghosts. You might be seeing ghosts and solving problems in your neighborhood also at the same damn time.
Well, before I get into my own personal experience with it,
Yeah.
I want to run down the data.
Hmm.
You know, so just for the people that aren't aware. Oh, before I get to that though, I just want to say that I did in my research ask a lot of people that came through my establishment at work
Okay.
because what better place to ask about stoner culture than where stoners are created or
Hmm.
nurtured. And so I asked, and I will say that either people wholeheartedly agreed or they really didn't have a thought about it. But the point is, like, I've heard no one deny it. No one said that it wasn't true. Now, that being said, I do want to point out some things that were brought up in the Scooby Dive. We're gonna start using that, the Scooby Dive, for this episode. One being, the show being released in 1969. It was at the peak of hippie culture and counterculture, and the original writers were fully aware of it. And so they absolutely, did some tongue-in-cheek jokes, about that. Shaggy's appearance, as you spoke of earlier,
Yeah.
classic, hippie image.
Hmm.
Um, that being said, if you notice, there was no like visible drug use, and the writers kept that in mind because they still wanted it to have a certain rating that it could be considered a family show. And so they couldn't push the envelope but so far. But they were aware of the situation. I think they just took advantage of it. I don't think, at least according to the research, I don't think it was done on purpose to create this narrative. But you know, if it works, it works.
Okay. Stay with me for a second. Please put a pin in that. Por favor, for our Spanish listeners. Um, our generation, the X generation, we're here to protect all generations from enemies, foreign and domestic. And we're all often speaking to future generations that came after ours. But I want to take a minute and take a step back to the 60s and the hippies and that era of our world because it was pivotal, come to find out upon further review, that to live through those times with the Vietnam War and everything that was the first time that on television you saw things happening that your government wasn't telling you about. You know what I mean? Like your government was telling you one thing and you were seeing something else. You know what I mean? And that was a pivotal breaking point in America. It's with that that to live through those times when there was only 700 soldiers there, and to go on to essentially lose that war. You know what I mean? A lot of the revolutionary spirit things were born in that era. You know what I mean? Including, like I said, we're talking 69 when Scooby's born, and I'm thinking of the symbology of that, like these little hippies were going around solving the problems, and then they would turn them over to the authorities. You know what I mean? Like the authorities should have been solving the crimes. You know what I mean? But like this ragtag bunch of hippies and their dog. You know what I mean? We were solving all the crimes. You know what I mean? Like that the man should have been doing. You know what I mean? So all right, continue.
You just brought up a point, and before I state it, I want to consult the scrolls about something real quick.
Raggy. Shout out to our last two episodes. The 40-ounce episode. This is where beer has, you know, ended up in my life. I'm here. I drink a Stella. Shout out to Stella. Good beer.
Okay. So the thought that I had was, why did all the villains like have to be unmasked at the end? You know what I mean? Like, why did they always portray themselves as some type of like otherworldly being or monster or whatever? And then there was always the big reveal at the end. You know, everybody remembers that.
Yeah.
Now, according to the scrolls, it turns out it's not as deep as I thought it was. Basically, it talks about mystery and deception, visual suspense, a moral lesson. I will get into that. It says the show reinforces the idea that evil isn't always some external monster. It's often an ordinary person pretending to be something frightening for selfish reasons. Unmasking them literally and metaphorically strips away the illusion. I like that.
I like that.
That's yeah. And the last thing is it was a formula that worked for the show, and so they used it.
Yeah.
You know, but getting back, not to get too far off track.
Velma, guys, just like we're just not gonna go any further with acknowledging the fact that Velma may have had a turkey. She might have a little donk donk, underneath of that.
Well, I'm saying in that Velma remake, they kind of like I think they kind of like take a nod to that because there is like a certain allure about it, and I noticed that she definitely has become a Halloween kind of staple for some women.
With me, it's as simple as
It's the glasses.
the glasses, bro. Like like she just exudes intelligence. With a little potential turkey.
Q and his turkey though. Like what? Come on.
Refraction.
Yeah, but I guess like I said, I wanted to touch upon my personal experience. I will say this: as a kid, I didn't pay attention to any of that.
Yeah.
If it did, like, I did always wonder why Shaggy was eating Scooby snacks though, but I never really gave it that much thought. I found myself asking that question a lot, like,
Yeah.
and then remember because they made like a Scooby snack cereal. I don't know if you remember that.
Yeah.
You know
I
what I mean?
definitely remember like cookies that are actually
Yeah, they
Scooby.
were shaped like Scooby snacks.
Yeah,
It was a cereal.
yeah.
I remember that because I bought a box because I just had to try it. And as a cereal wasn't bad, but I was an adult by then, or at least I was old enough to realize, yeah, this is something's going on with this.
Nick Castellanos, baseball player for my Philadelphia Phillies, when asked who is his one of his favorite superheroes was, mentioned Scooby Doo, and upon further questioning, um, acknowledged that he talked. First of all, like dog talked. Well, Nick Castellanos is master of the obvious, and the dog talked and solved crimes, man. Like like and that was his superhero. That was his superhero. Grandma.
Twitch, did you say that'd be Superman?
He was asked, the regular guy was just in the dugout talking to Nick Castellanos and said, like, who's your favorite superhero? And he said Scooby Doo. And he was like, Scooby Doo? He's like, Scooby Doo is your favorite superhero? He's like, yes. He was like, because Nick Castellanos, like, man, he's very blunt. Like, even with national interviews, he's very just like Captain Obvious. It's like this whole like too cool for school mixed with aloof, whatever and whatever. And so he's like, yes, like he's like, the dog talked and solved mysteries. So yes, he's a superhero to me.
It's funny that you brought that up because they actually did something where Scooby Doo and Superman's dog. They had like I don't know if it was a series, but it was at least one show where they teamed up.
I could like see it.
Scooby and Crypto.
We got to look on YouTube for that.
Yeah.
I can see that. I can remember that. That's up in there. Which, again, the cartoon is Scooby Doo, but it's like we wanted to talk about this for a larger conversation of just like how cartoons of our era were the best. We were often watching previous eras of cartoons along with all of our cartoons. Cartoons were often on 3 different stations, at least 2 different stations after school every single day. You know what I mean? Saturdays were cartoons. Saturday, I would catch Scooby often in the morning. You know what I mean? Like they would be running Scooby in the morning. Like it was always just like I would just catch a little Scooby in the morning as a young adult with my kids, like getting them ready for school. We got Scooby Doo on. You know what I mean? Like it was just on. Scooby was always around. So yeah, it's Scooby Dooby Doo.
I mean, where would you rank it amongst the greats? Like, if you had to have Mount Rushmore,
everything that we've come up with our Scooby Dive, like it's elevated it to like icon status. So it's hard to compare it to, but like stuff that like when I would come home with my key and have total control of the remote and the house, all the oodles and noodles, hot dogs, everything was available. You know what I mean? And like, it was often Transformers, which went on to be a dominant franchise, G.I. Joe, and He-Man. So like based upon
and that is the Mount Rushmore. Those four.
Yeah. And so Scooby really is prior to that, in chronologically, like this is, but like Scooby was always around because Scooby was epic, you know what I mean, iconic, you know what I mean, like so Scooby was yeah, and we also wanted to touch to cartoons in the current era where who has cable anymore? Let's be honest, guys. You know what I mean? You don't need it anymore. You know what I mean? And so there are channels, but like thanks to my brother here, like I can see channels for free. You know what I mean? So like there are channels to be watched out there still, but like you don't even need cable for it. So this is the era we're in, and there's no Saturday morning cartoons. There is, but there isn't, and it's not as relevant. Kids can watch cartoons on YouTube, on their devices, whatever. It's a brave new world.
Yeah. So
anime. I know you wanted to touch on it. Your anime thirst.
no. You mentioned that you wanted to talk about the rest of the Mystery Gang. So, I mean,
okay.
yeah, I feel like Fred was the first metrosexual character because I can't say he was gay or feminine, but he
No,
wasn't necessarily masculine.
no, you're right. You're all right. Yeah. So it was he was very Manhattan. Before. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
but when you think about it, there were a lot of cartoons of that era that presented the men like that. Like, Josie and the Pussycats, like all of them shows, like the guys in the shows, all of them look like Fred. They all,
For some reason, I'm thinking about Johnny Quest. Like Johnny Quest.
no. I'm talking about like I said, Josie and the Pussycats, what was that show? Uh damn it. Archie? Was it Archie?
Yeah.
Yeah, like all that era of the cartoons, like
Yeah.
all of the guys had that archetype. They were Fred. They were some version of Fred. They had some type of neckerchief, like it was, dude. I don't know if that was just how they dressed. That was a representation of how they dressed back then, but they all look the same.
Listen, wait a minute. I have to segue here, and I apologize, but it may be appropriate because you mentioned a necktie. I know at least one of the Smurfs wore a necktie, like a similar kind of scarf thing, and
The
like,
chef one.
well, we're talking right. So now we're talking Saturday morning cartoons, and Smurfs is there. Like Smurfs
Yeah,
is
yeah, you're right.
Smurfs is sturdy. Like you
We
know,
might have to add a fifth image to the mountain
yeah.
because yeah, we
And
can't forget this.
low key, I am Papa Smurf. You know what I mean? Like
You are Papa Smurf.
I am Papa Smurf. Like you know what I mean? Like I really am. There's that.
You are definitely Papa
Oh
Smurf. Yeah, boy. Oh man, if I had the time to think about it, I could go in on that. But
yeah, you know.
anyway,
Um, what's her name? And I think like what we didn't see sometimes at night. Uh, Papa Smurf and Smurfette, bro. Like, come on, guys. Like, come on. He's not gonna. He's
listen,
not gonna.
listen,
He's not
listen.
gonna
I
make.
don't want to go there. I don't want to go there because if you go there, like that becomes something really disgusting because he literally created her with magic. And for you to come back and say he's dipping the Smurf berry, I don't want that image. I
How
don't.
else? How else was the colony gonna survive? Was it always going to be magic?
I'm just saying he created her with magic, man. Pure magic.
Yeah, if it
She
wasn't for
wasn't born.
Gargamel and Azrael, man, like we would, we may never know what could have been with that culture, that civilization. You know what I mean? They got exposed just like the Samani people in northern India, the Gypsies who are no longer here. Who would mark a trail. They would patron it. They would patron. That's how you would mark a trail for others to follow. The Somali people.
What?
There's Somali people that like are in our world, that, like like are from but like the actual gypsies that used to hang around in northern India. You know what I mean? I learned that from ChatGPT too. Like that's where they hung out. Like the wandering folk. You know.
Okay.
Listen, guys. There is a bad side to AI that I've been today years old that I realized that like there is a carbon footprint associated every time you do a search that is significant, and part of the reason is because it's novel. Like when you do a search on Google, it's pulling from it doesn't pull it the way AI pulls it. Like AI is doing a novel search for you every single time you ask it something, and like because of that, like the carbon footprint is enormous. So, you know, just like all things should be done in moderation, I think my wisdom is starting to tell me like even AI should be done in moderation now. Like you shouldn't just be like in math class, for example, just like telling it to give you the answer and expecting
No,
the
you should definitely not be doing that.
like and the person he knows who I'm talking about, like who I found out is doing this. Yeah, so like that's like a little too much chat GPT right there, for example.
Shame on you, mystery person. Maybe you need your mask pulled off.
It's a tool that can be used for good and for evil, just like the World Wide Web, guys, and
It's
just like
funny, right? I saw like a ad. Oddly enough, it was an ad for an AI app of some sort. No, it was for a degree program. That's what it said. But the
mm,
comment, the quote was, "AI isn't going to take your jobs. It's people that know AI that'll take your jobs." And it got me to thinking, like, there might be some truth to that. Like,
that's what I was trying to tell you. I was trying to tell, and I'm trying to tell anyone to listen. Like, there are family members that want me to tutor them now in AI, like no cap, and like I'm telling them, like, you can get left behind, or you can,
see, but here's the
jump
thing.
in.
Here's the
There's
thing.
just real quick, just to, in the no cap category, like, for example, there's local hospitals and local governments, state governments that have okayed their staff and employees to use AI in their jobs, with their blessing, if it makes them do their jobs better. You know what I mean? But they had to do that officially because it was being done, and like, they had to sanction it. You're using a state iPhone, you know, you put you they have to sanction you putting chat GPT on that device. You know.
But here's my only issue with it, and this might sound a little shallow, but I don't know. It's just something that I think about. All of these ads that talk about that they're gearing to people, in our age bracket, with the fear that we'll be left behind. But the truth is, like, we ain't got much longer. Like, what the fuck are we gonna do with this knowledge? Like, you've seen the ads. Give me 45 days and I'll make you an AI pro. It's like, and then what are you gonna do? You're gonna spend your time thinking you're a graphic designer. Then
Bro,
you
you
got
have to listen. I know where we're at in life where, things show up and they humble you. But like I hang out with I've been hanging out with 90-year-olds and 80-year-olds my whole career. Like there's a lot of them.
that's not what I mean. I'm not saying like
I've probably had four or
I'm
five
just saying I'm just saying
100-year-old
like
patients that I've
the
seen before.
average, realistically speaking, in the real world, there's only two avenues you could truly go with this AI technology. Well, three technically.
Yeah.
You can learn how to write it. You can learn all these little apps and use these tools. And basically, all those people, like I said, they're just using it for like some type of graphic design company that they're starting. Or you have these experts that are, applying these AIs into, pertinent industries, like you said, the medical industry.
Or like if
Or
you're an attorney, like think of like
yeah, I'm just saying,
what you
like,
have to do as an attorney, like doing
but but
documents, like
but that being said, for our generation, like, how feasible is it? Like, even if you learn these great skills in 45 days, like, you still have to deal with, real world shit like ageism. Like,
yeah,
corporations and companies, like, that's a real thing. Like, they're going to get someone younger if
yeah,
there's you and then there's someone younger.
you got to be
So,
prepared for that.
and
Yeah,
I'm just saying, like, learn AI so that you'll understand when we transition into that. But it's like people think you're going to like have a new career path out of this. Unless you're young, no, you're not. You know what I mean? You're really not. Unless you go into business for yourself, but then you're limited. Like, because the only thing you could truly do, entrepreneurially speaking, is some type of graphic arts. You know what I mean? Like, you can't.
I totally disagree. Yeah, I totally disagree with that. I totally
Then what
disagree.
else? What else can you do
Like
career wise?
I know someone right now who is making a career change, and she is going to become essentially a life coach. You know what I mean? Like, and she realized that with her circle in another, working in another industry, like like she realized that she was doing that. She's gonna like go get like certified as like some like whatever little certification you need to be licensed to do that in her state, and she's gonna try to build a caseload of people, and I know that AI could be helpful in that process. You know what I
How?
mean?
How?
If you want
Please
to
tell me
analyze,
how.
if you want to
Because
analyze the competition, if you want to,
because
for
I'm
example, if
saying
you want to,
I also know someone who is
yeah,
doing the same thing. And at the end of the day, that really boils down to marketing yourself.
yeah,
Like,
that's the thing.
I mean, come on, these are niche fields. Like, there's no profession.
When I
I'm
started
saying, come
talking,
on, there's no
wait,
government agency for life coaches. I'm
listen,
saying, like, you're not going to corporate, unless you're going to end up in somebody's HR department. Like, being a life coach is an independent endeavor. Like,
yeah,
it's just entrepreneurship. It's no different than these people that now all of a sudden, and I don't want to discourage anybody. It's not about that. I'm just saying, like, you have to keep these things in mind. Like, you still have to realize you have to contend with a lot of people that are much younger than you that already have a better grasp of it than
no,
you
it's,
do right now.
yeah,
You see what I mean?
and there's that force is there. Like, I'm not going to say names, but I know people in their 70s trying to find work, and they are overqualified for positions. So like, yeah, ageism is real at every stage of age. You know what I mean? My uncle works. He's 70 years old, and he works every day. Like, and like plans to be working.
What does he
You
do?
know, he runs a cleaning business. They clean offices. Like it's a clean. So
Yeah.
sometimes he.
Okay. So we're not. The extent that AI will ever be used for a business like that is marketing, which is kind of linking back to the
Organizing your
point.
payroll, or organizing your payroll,
I mean, but
or
that's the app at the end of the day.
yeah, or if you wanted to write a business plan
Which
for,
brings me, which brings me back to my point. Like,
yeah,
the only viable paths in AI that could really like be life changing are the ones that require having a technical understanding of it, not just how to learn how to use an app or learn how to use 30 apps in 45 days. That's all I'm saying.
you
Like,
have
you
in
have
the
to
end you
keep
have to
that in mind.
use in the end you have to use your own intelligence when you're using the artificial intelligence. You know what I mean? Like, you know what you what question you ask, how you ask it. I listened to a program the other day with people who use AI. I'll tell you what I used AI for the other day. I had a barbecue. I knew I was going to have 15 people, and I knew what I wanted to serve. And I asked Gemini to give me a shopping list for all the items I needed to provide that soul
Yeah,
southern
that's just
inspired,
that's a
and it
life
gave me
skill.
it gave me the ingredients. I mean, and
I'm
the
saying
instructions.
that's life though, but the person that's really benefiting from this is the person who wrote that, like who's writing the AI. And like I said, like my whole point for the whole thing is don't get caught up in the glamour of it, because it's realistically speaking, like your use of it will be limited unless you have the ability to be on the side that produces this. Outside of just being a user, just being an end user, you're always going to be limited. Like, even the things you're saying, like that, you basically like these are like personal assistants. I mean, yeah, that's great. that's great. I'm just saying, like, but this is not a career change kind of thing. This is just, this is a society life kind of thing. It's, like, this is not somebody deciding, wake up one day, I'm going to become, and the ones that truly can do that, you're gonna have to go to school for that.
But
You're gonna have
but
to.
what if, like, so some people know this and some people don't. But halfway through grad school, I had a backup career in mind. If I got kicked out of grad school 3 times and got back in, so like I had to like think about like something else I might want to do with my time based upon the person I was at that time. And I told people that like if I didn't make it through grad school to be a physical therapist, I could see myself being a tow truck driver who comes and takes your cars in the middle of the night and patrols parking lots, for people who don't want their cars parked illegally at night. And I thought it was perfect for me because I could go to the bar and hang out at the bar all night long. Bar closes at 2 o'clock. I go to work. I get in my truck. I hit all the parking lots that I'm responsible for. Like all the repos. I was prepared to put on a bulletproof vest and go out into the night and come get your car. And I remember when they came to get my car one time in the middle of the night, and I happened to be up, and there was something in the back seat of my car, and I didn't want them to take it. So I casually walked, and they came in my front driveway to try to take it, and they couldn't get to it. So then they were coming around to the back driveway. So they're pulling around to the back driveway. By that time, I'm in the back seat of my car getting what I wanted to get out of there, and they pull into my back driveway, and they see me, and they backed out of the driveway and they drove off. And there was 2 people with me that night, and when I got back to them up in the attic, you know what I mean, and, my company, I said, you know what, guys, like, I wanted to do that for a living at one time. Like, I could see myself being like a tow truck driver, and like, let me tell you, like, if I was coming to get your car that night, like, I was gonna get your car.
Okay, but
And
where
if you're standing next to your car, I'm still gonna come get your car.
well, so tell me then, where does AI play in all that?
That, like, right now, if I wanted to start a tow truck business, like, because I'm an entrepreneur and because I know how to use AI, I would be limitless in what I could have.
No, you would not be limitless, which is the point. You could 100% fully maximize the use of AI, but you're only using it as a reference tool or an informational tool. You're not doing anything else with it. And that's what I'm saying. You're either going to do that, or you're going to learn how to actually be the ones that build the AI that you use to be infinitely limitless.
The tech industry, the people who make the technology, and like, we're in a world now where a lot of this tariff stuff is based upon the fact that some parts of technology happen outside of our country.
Okay, we didn't invent technology. I mean,
Excuse me.
I said we didn't invent technology. Like,
But like, there's like, my point is that there are people that, like, yes, create the technology for that is their job.
that's my point. I
Yeah.
said I don't think you heard what I said in the beginning. There's only 3 avenues that AI presents you.
Okay.
You can use it, and you could maximize that use and apply it to anything else, or you could be the one to create it, which takes a lot more level of education than just learning how to use an app. Like, you're going to have to go to school for that, because there's programming code, there's a lot of things that you have to learn. And then you just have the same thing, but used on a corporate level, which means that like they're tailoring it for specific industries, i.e., like you said, the medical field, you know, the legal field,
Mhm.
the stock market, whatever. But my point is, like, AI isn't going to, unless it becomes sentient at one point, it's not going to like create something, like unless it's like a image, a AI image. They've gone that far with it. You know what I mean? And they've learned how to animate those
I
images.
guess I see creating a business as creating something.
Yeah, I mean, but that's still just entrepreneurialism. That's all I was saying. Like there's still avenues, and
Yeah,
there's limited avenues. At least at this point, who knows what it'll be 10, 20 years down the line. Maybe
yeah.
it does evolve, but right now, and going back to original conversation about our age group, this
Hmm.
is all we have. But we're behind the eight ball because you got younger people that they already know how to use this shit.
Yeah,
And if you want to like make a career change, which we were saying, you got to contend with that
of course.
unless you do the entrepreneurial thing.
Yeah,
And that's all I was saying. Like I don't want the whole point is I want people to have realistic expectations of what you'll be able to do with AI in its current form. That's all I'm saying. Like these ads when you see them in social media, they make it seem like you could change your life in 30 days. And I'm saying no, you're not going to change your life in 30 days by learning 40 apps. That's that.
yeah. Like those things that you're like those, like yeah. I see those things that pop up that like I see what you're saying. Like that, those things are definitely questionable. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But like,
it's just somebody's tool. It's like the ones every single one of like the 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 marketing the marketing use tools that are out there, the apps. It's like they all just hate Canva. Like they all just like Canva is like enemy number one to these apps for some reason. Every time you
mm,
see an ad, they're always talking about don't use Canva. It almost seems political, but that's another conversation. That's another conversation. But yeah, like I guess I've gone down the rabbit hole enough for the day. Like I don't know if
I know that like if you know if Scooby didn't want to have to go through running into dark caves, dark closets. Like if Scooby wanted like an edge on these goddamn ghosts and goblins, that like if he whipped out his smartphone and just got with DeepSeek, like I know Scooby's potential would be unlimited. And
Scooby with a smartphone.
yeah,
Yeah,
Raggy.
yeah. I don't know. I feel like
Like right
Scooby.
now, we could ask them the ingredients for Scooby snacks. They would give us the ingredients for Scooby snacks if we wanted to make Scooby snacks. If we wanted to go into a Scooby snack business, and we wanted to look at our competition of other people who thought of making Scooby snacks, because like it's not a novel idea. Like we're not the first people to like think of like we're gonna go into a Scooby snack business. Like we could do all the research right there with AI. Like we could do it right now, me and you. We could like look at what's been done with Scooby snacks in the world, and like see where we want to come in at the market and like make our footprint.
Yeah, but I mean,
if,
I don't know.
if we so desired, you know what I mean. But like so don't be discouraged, because we like, because any absurd idea, like if you want to know the lyrics, if you want to make up a rap song about country hocking, and like you can't think of what the lyrics and the hook would be, like you could ask AI to do that for you. It'll give you a song about country hocking with all kinds of historical references. It'll have, three verses. It'll have you know, it'll do it for you, guys.
I
Whatever
don't
you
know,
want
man.
to
This is the same person that led this whole conversation off. Well, we should do it in moderation.
type.
You seem to be pretty gung ho.
I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
You seem to be pretty. No, I get it. I get it. I get it.
Like it's a tool. It's a tool that
Thank you. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. Like
it's a
I
tool.
don't want people thinking no
There
more
used
than
to
that.
be there used to be a
It's a
stick
tool.
with a rock to it. It used to take that and like use that as a tool to like dig a hole or something back when we were cavemen. Like that was like some of the first tools. It's a tool. It's just another tool to use that's available. You know what I mean? To like get some shit done with.
So, you have any final thoughts?
Say
Anything
again?
you want to say before we head on
No,
up out here? About
I'm good.
anything?
Uh, no, I'm good. I feel like it's it's good to be here again. And happy. It's not even Memorial Day. You know what I mean? Like I've been eating barbecue for the past 72 hours straight. Um, so like everybody start enjoying your the better weather wherever you're at in this environment while we still have it.
Yeah, yeah. I have nothing. Um, go watch Scooby Doo
Scooby Doo. Peace.
later.